Okay. Hello, how's everybody doing? I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about geology because it's it's amazing how people will deny actual known historical events such as the global flood. And I mean, every calendar goes back to the time of the flood. Every genealogy goes back to the time of the flood. The only history that we have goes back to the time of the flood. And every major civilization has a flood account with many of the same details, such as bad people existing before the time of the flood, such as one family being saved, such as 8 people, many of them have the number 8 people, such as a very large wooden boat being made, such as birds being released to see if it was safe outside, and you know, animals in the ark, everything. Okay, but that's not enough. That's not enough for people to believe. Now we have such a thing called geology. Geology, you can't argue with geology. It is what it is, and there's no way you can change it. You can't get rid of geology. It is 100 million cubic miles of consecutive layers of water deposited sediments over a mile deep on every continent around the world, including Antarctica, that also has dinosaur fossils. So there was clearly a global flood event in which everything that was living, or samples of everything that was living, was preserved or buried within those sediment layers. Now, the consecutive sediment layers, over a mile deep, as stated, over 100 million cubic miles worth around the world, and you can't have very much time between consecutive layers because of erosion. So there's not 100 years between layers because of erosion. Erosion would have eroded much of it away, and it would be very, very inconsistent. It wouldn't be consecutive layers. Now, the picture I have here is showing what the Earth actually looks like without soil and trees and water. This is a land area that is free from any soil, just a little bit of sand in places. And this is actually rock layers. This is what the Earth looks like without any soil. It looks like a bunch of, I don't know, bunch of mud stirred up, basically. Looks like there's different sediment layers all swirled around, spread around, different color patterns or different shades of rock, but it's all rock. These are rock layers. And it's obvious that these patterns here are the result of water. Water pushing sediments around, shifting sediments. And of course, these sediment layers are everywhere around the world. Looks like someone playing in the mud or something, swirling sediments around. Not very much, but it's enough to see that the sediments are swirling around. This is, now if you think that the sediments are over a mile deep, they have fossils in them from every kind of animal that was living at the time, then you know that the global flood event occurred. It's what the evidence shows. It doesn't show anything else. It shows there was a global flood. This is the evidence right in front of you. Now we have, in geology, have preserved footprints, fossil footprints, animal tracks, even raindrops at times, flood ripples, water ripples, that show the direction of the current passing over the continents. You cannot deny the evidence of the global flood. Geology is the evidence of the global flood. You can't argue with it. There is no arguing with the evidence. Now, this is very important because we need to establish a date of when this happened, and we have historical evidence of when it happened. Every major ancient civilization occurred and came after this event, 5,000 years ago or less. They are all descendants of Noah, descendants of Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The Shemites are Middle Easterners. The Japhethites are European and Asian. The Hamites are African, generally speaking. And of course, there's a mixture of everything in between. Mitzrayim is Egypt. In our Bible reading, we're reading how Joseph went to Egypt and became basically the ruler of the whole land of Egypt. Joseph, the son of Israel, the son of Jacob. He basically saved the world. Joseph saved the world. Of course, it wasn't Joseph, it was God who showed him in a dream that there would be famine over the whole earth. It was 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. So Joseph stored up houses of grain so much that he couldn't even count it anymore. He couldn't even measure it anymore. Of how much he saved up in the 7 years of plenty. Then in the 7 years of famine, his brothers were over in the land of Canaan starving. So their father said, stop looking at each other, stop looking at one another and go down to Egypt and get some food. Because they had grain, had food in Egypt. So they go down there and to buy food. And little did they know that they had to buy it from their brother Joseph that they sold as a slave years earlier. And they didn't know it was him. And so Joseph tested them, to see if they were sincere or honest. Gave them a big runaround, put their money in their bags again, told them to bring back Benjamin. Jacob didn't want to send Benjamin. Finally, they were starving, so he finally sent Benjamin. Then Joseph put his cup in Benjamin's sack, and when they left, they chased after him, and they found the cup in Benjamin's sack. And then, of course, they would, charge Benjamin for having a cup, Joseph cup. They said, no, we didn't do that. Why would we do that? We came with money. We're trying to buy grain. And Joseph was saying, no, you can't. You guys are spies to spy out the land, the undefended parts of the land. Said, no, we're just 12 sons, and one of them is dead. And they're talking to the one they thought was dead. Anyways, Mitzrayim is a big part of Bible history. Egypt is a big part of Bible history. And Abraham was a Samaritan, from a Samaritan city. This is all, of course, Mitzrayim is Noah's grandson. His mother's name, according to genealogies, is Egyptus. That's where they get the name Egypt. So anyway, it's you can't argue with the evidence, the facts. This is the only history we have, and it's accurate history. It's not made up. There's no reason to make up history like that. It's actually what happened. So let's see if anything going on here. Nobody in the live chat. Okay. Well, that was just about it. I just wanted to show you this picture, what the Earth looks like, and let you know that every continent consists of consecutive layers, principally, mostly, consecutive layers of water-deposited sediments, one on top of the other, deposited in rapid succession, over a mile deep, everywhere around the world, on every land mass. And you can't argue with that. Geology is the result of the global flood, period. No questions, no ifs, ands, or maybes. That's it. You can't argue with it. All right, I hope everybody has a great week.